We are now seeing so much change that we are in a situation in which companies that do not yet exist will build products not yet conceived, using materials not yet invented, with methodologies not yet in existence. That's your reality, and that's your opportunity. And what are you going to do to align yourself to what this means? Well, that's your focus over the next 2 days. You have a remarkable opportunity as IFC has brought you together to network, to collaborate, to share your ideas, to share your insight, to elevate the conversation to what we need to do to ensure that what we ultimately do is we change our future before the future changes us. And it's our ability to align ourselves to the speed of these trends that will define our future success.
Hey, Futurist Jim Carroll from the home broadcast studio. You're getting a bit of a different view here with multiple camera angles. Kind of a melancholy moment here. I began this voyage 6 months ago building out this thing, and we're actually doing a big upgrade this weekend. We're going to paint some more walls, push the studio out a bit, and expand it. And so going to be a lot more going on here because, hey, I used to spend time on stage, and now I get to hang out in my basement. Here's the thing. I want to talk a little bit about where I think we are with the global economy right now and trends and what's happening with organizations, and obviously the futurists, because, hey, I'm a futurist and that's where I spend all my time talking. It's been a really weird 6 months, obviously. COVID-19 has changed everything. And back when we had the last global economic meltdown of 2008, it was fast, it was brutal, the impact was devastating. You might remember November, December of 2008 and January with all the uncertainty, and it just felt like things were going from bad to worse. This one is a little bit weirder, and I spent a lot of time back in 2008, 2009, 2010 on stage, such as, for example, in this video clip, talking to companies about how to innovate despite lingering economic uncertainty and what they needed to do despite uncertainty of where they were going to be going in the future. And that's why this potential downturn is a little bit weird. I mean, obviously the stock market is up, it's rock and rolling, and it's kind of fascinating that we're seeing this given that there are still in North America 30 to 40 million unemployed, and there's a lot of pain and hurt out there. We're now in this very uncertain period of time in September where people are returning to work, they're returning to school. We've got massive uncertainty around. I remain convinced that we still have a lot of economic volatility still to come, and I don't think we are getting any sort of return to normal anytime soon whatsoever. And that's why you see me investing all of this time and effort into this broadcast studio to build out my capabilities, because I think this is going to be my life for quite some time to come. I think there's lessons we can still learn despite the weirdness of this economy from previous periods of economic uncertainty. And I'll give you a little bit of a story that unfolds with this. Back in 2009, Bloomberg Businessweek wrote this blog post, and it turned into an article, 10 of the worst innovation mistakes that you can make in a recession. And it was sort of an overview of 10 things you should not do in a period of economic uncertainty. And I thought that was the wrong approach. I thought what they should be doing is they should be pointing out 10 things that you should be doing during a period of economic uncertainty, 10 strategies that you should be pursuing to try to align yourself to the fact that, look, we're getting into this very fascinating new future. There's always going to be big opportunities in front of us, and it's by aligning to those opportunities that you can manage to get ahead. So I ended up writing a blog post, which they covered and they circulated and they reshared. 10 things you need to do to innovate in a recession. Not 10 things you need to avoid doing, but 10 things you actually should be doing to innovate in a recession. And it caught quite a bit of attention at the time because it was giving folks a good practical overview of some of the things they should be focusing on to try to get ahead in this world of major uncertainty. So let's cover these issues off because I think there is still some really good guidance out there in terms of what we can be doing. My number one point was refocus your team. Focus your team relentlessly on growth, relentlessly on the future, relentlessly on opportunity. there is still massive economic hurt out there. There's still massive economic pain. I mean, obviously, some industries are rocking and rolling, but there's others which are in for a prolonged downturn, and they're still trying to figure out what is our path out of this. And the most challenging thing that you need to do as a leader is focus these people on the pathway forward, and that's by reframing their focus on the short term to a longer term focus. Where are we going to be 1 year out, 2 years out, 5 years out, 10 years out? We will eventually have a vaccine. It's not going to happen as quickly as you think. It's not like we're going to switch a light bulb on and off and all of a sudden we've got a vaccine and everything is rosy. It's going to be a long, complicated rollout, and the angst and turmoil that your organization and your team is going through is still going to continue for quite some time. So as a leader, you've got to continue to relentlessly give them hope. Number 2, continue to respond faster. I think one of the most magical things that we've seen with the recession that has unfolded over the last 6 months is how quickly industries have responded to the dramatic change fostered upon them. Think about online shopping. I spent a lot of time with a lot of the world's largest retailers and consumer product companies talking about the fact that what they needed to do is focus on a world in which there's going to be more pick and pack and curbside pickup and online shopping and e-commerce and stuff like this. And they had long, complicated meetings, strategy meetings. Yeah, we'll get around to it one day. And then boom, all of a sudden, they had to do it. They had to do it really fast. Retailers innovated at a pace that I don't think we've ever witnessed before. And I think we've learned something powerful there. We've seen the same thing in the world of healthcare. We talk about telemedicine and bioconnectivity, remote medical monitoring and remote doctor and patient consultations. There were a lot of healthcare organizations that I spoke to that experimented with that and had it on their strategy list. And then boom, all of a sudden they had to do it. So I think we've learned something new and powerful about speed. Now, I've just done a very customized video for a massive global insurance conference happening in the next few weeks, 15-minute introductory video. And that's one of the core things that I focus on is we've learned something new about speed through this process. Number 3, what I wrote in 2008, 2009 was invest in the brand. And I was sort of alluding to the fact that, look, during a period of this economic volatility, consumers are less loyal to you. You've got to meet the bar in terms of their expectations, in terms of service, in terms of product quality. There's going to be more volatility. There's going to be more churn, less loyalty. And I was alluding at the time to social media, and you have to remember 2008, Twitter was only a year old when I wrote that original blog post. Well, here we are, 2020, and social media just drives every single perception about your brand, how consumers perceive you. And if you don't provide excellence in customer service, if you aren't providing the utmost in terms of how you interact with your customers, if you aren't providing the best product or service, they go crazy and they go social, and it can do your brand more damage faster than ever before. So you need to be very cognizant of the fact that during a period of uncertainty, you continually need to invest in your brand and work hard at ensuring that people understand that your brand is progressive, you're in tune with the times. That's what I'm doing here with my green wall, working to get across to my clients that, look, I'm miles ahead when it comes to this virtual game. Number 4, mix it up. That was my advice in 2008, 2009. A period of economic uncertainty means that what consumers and customers are going to do in terms of choice is going to be subjected to a lot of change. And wow, have we ever seen that with working at home, with COVID-19, with the rise of some industries, with the collapse of other industries? I think we are witnessing a new form of consumer and customer volatility that we've never witnessed before. And if you are not reinventing your product and service at a pace that is absolutely furious, you're not reinventing fast enough. My number 5 point back in 2008, 2009 was explore more. Take a good look at the future and think about the trends which are going to change your industry. You really need to be doing that now, because trends we were talking about pre-COVID have actually picked up speed, whether it's self-driving cars, whether it's augmented reality, whether it's all kinds of interactive connectivity, hyperconnectivity, the Internet of Things, 3D printing. No matter where you go, every single trend that I was talking about on stage before COVID has sped up to a huge degree. So when it comes to the world of customer support, for example, we are probably going to see absolutely fascinating, fast-moving trends in terms of future forms of customer interaction. You've got to be ready for this. You've got to be exploring this. You've got to be aligned to it and making sure that it's a part of your innovation agenda, because if you're not, you're not going to be part of the game. And that's where people are investing and exploring this virtual space so much more, because we're stuck in this world for quite some time. Number 6, look at that, getting ahead of myself. Number 6, kill off the innovation killers. Look, we had excuses before COVID. We can't do that because we've always done it this way. It won't work. It's the dumbest idea I ever heard. It's too risky. You notice what happened with COVID-19? All those excuses went out the window. There was no time to make excuses that we couldn't do something, because we had to do it for survival. And I think organizations have really learned something powerful here about what happens when they get rid of the organizational sclerosis, which holds them back from pursuing the future. The thing is, don't let it creep back in. Don't let it come back into your corporate culture. You are moving at a speed which is simply staggering. And I think you've got to continue to ensure that you can move at that speed, because the world has changed in a fundamental way, and speed is the essence of so much of what is going on in every single industry. Number 7, collaborate more. That was my advice 2007, 2008, 2009, that look, if we have all this uncertainty, you've got to learn to grab the insight within your organization, but not only that, the insight you have from outside your organization. You've got to collaborate more internally and externally in order to find the ideas that will take you forward. Something magical has happened in the last 6 months. Despite the fact we all hate these Zoom calls, and despite the fact that we're all zoomed out by the end of the day, what has happened is internally organizations have discovered the magic that comes from fast collaboration. They've discovered the magic that comes from the existence of fast teams. They've discovered the magic that comes from pulling together a group of people to tackle a problem in real time. And so I think you've got to crystallize what you've learned from that. Ensure that becomes a key part of your corporate culture going forward. Number 8, seek ideas. If you're going to collaborate amongst more people internally and externally, then make sure you are turning on your idea engines. You're grabbing a hold of every single idea. I think we actually are living in a period of time which is seeing one of the most fascinating acceleration of innovation ideas to have ever occurred. I mean, we can't be in a situation in which organizations have learned how to operate at a faster speed and not realize they can do things they couldn't do before. So seek ideas, try new ideas, try to do things you haven't done before. If there's ideas and issues that are holding you back, don't let it hold you back. Ideas are your energy to take you forward in the future. Partner up. I mean, obviously, this was my advice in 2008, 2009. The context was, look, the world has become really complex. You're not going to have the skills necessary to do the things you need to do to get ahead. Well, that's even more real than ever before. Again, going back to retail, think about how many partners they had to find to help them quickly support curbside shopping and sophisticated e-commerce and online interaction. And I mean, wow, they just moved so fast. What organizations have discovered in the last 6 months is that it's their ability to form fast partnerships which really drive their success. And number 10, back in 2008, 2009, get over it. I was talking about the 7 stages of economic grief, and if you are stuck in the anger phase, the denial phase, the phase of questioning, you got to move through those phases faster, and you have to get to the acceptance phase. My point then and my point now is this is real. We are going to be in this complex economy for a long time to come. It is not going to be a situation in which somebody flips the switch and 30 or 40 million people go back to work. There are industries being destroyed at the same time that there are new industries being born. There are jobs which are disappearing and which will never come back while new jobs are being created. And you need to align to these trends. And one of the most important things you can do that is to get over it, accept reality. We're in a COVID economy for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, maybe longer. And I'm certainly seeing that in my industry, the convention, conference, and meeting industry, where I got a whole bunch of folks who are sitting back and saying, well, we're all just going to go back to normal, and they're going to open in convention halls, and we'll all have meetings and events. We've got some retailers who have a mindset that we're going to one day soon be able to get rid of all these barriers that we have towards people coming in and doing shopping. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be a long, complex, and arduous process. And that's why in my little situation here, I'm doing everything I can to put in place a lot of sophisticated stuff, including more camera angles, just to try to build out my capabilities and what I can do to enhance where we're going to go in the future. Accept reality. It's one of the most important things you can do. Back in 2009, I was on stage, and I've used this clip before, with a massive global food company, Yum Brands, which was Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, KFC, and a variety of others. And I spoke to their global leadership team, and you have to understand the context of what was going on. Massive global economic downturn. Everybody's in a funk. Where's the growth? And I went out on stage with a resounding message that was focused around the issue of when do you innovate. I want you to watch that right now, and then I'll be back with you for a wrap-up.
And I think the big question for everybody in the room is, when do we begin to innovate? Do we begin, once we're out of this economic challenge? Do we begin once we're comfortable that we're through the difficult times that we're seeing around the world? Or do we make the conscious decision right now, each and every one of us, that we are going to focus on the future from this point on? We're going to innovate and be ready for when we see that headline. I was talking at one event in October as the meltdown was beginning to occur, and the CEO was on stage, and part of his message was, look, given what's happening, we have three choices. Number one, we can panic. Number two, we can do nothing. Or number three, we can continue to innovate, change, and adapt. You know what I like in what we're going through this period of time? I call it the 7 stages of economic grief. When you lose a loved one, you go through a bereavement process. You go through the stages of grief. You go through the anger stage. You go through the denial phase. And eventually, after a period of time, you get to the acceptance stage. You think about the rate at which these developments unfolded. I think a lot of us, for the last several months, we've been in the absolute shock phase. We're looking at our investments. We're in the anger stage. We're looking at our investments. We're in the denial stage. And what is happening within a lot of organizations, we're all like, in North American phrase, we're like deer in the headlights. We're standing here frozen. We don't know what to do next. We turn on CNN, and it is a constant bombardment of negative news. When do we innovate? We have to make a conscious decision right now. And that's why you're having this conference right now. To focus on growth, to focus on future, to focus on opportunity. It's a conscious decision to move aggressively right into the acceptance stage, and we're going to start innovating for the future because we know we will see that economic recovery headline at some point in time in the future, because we are going to be part of the people who are going to build the economic recovery. You notice what Intel has done? Intel has made the conscious decision that they are going to invest $7 billion in building new plant infrastructure, building new chip plant infrastructure, because their conscious decision is, we're going to build for growth. We're going to make the conscious decision that we are going to be a driver of that growth.
Are you going to be a driver of that growth? Are you going to be participating in what is going on? This is an absolutely fascinating period of time, and I think there's a lot of leadership guidance we can get from those who won in previous periods of economic uncertainty. Study what the winners have done when there's been uncertainty. And what they've done is they've focused on the future, they've focused on opportunity, they've aligned their teams to fast ideas, they've collaborated more, they've shared ideas more, they've kept their eye on fast-moving trends, and they've worked hard to ingest those trends at speed. So I'm continuing to work away here to analyze what is going on with this global economic downturn, and I'm actually beginning to provide more and more of my insight through virtual presentations. I've actually got a number of them coming up in the next several weeks, and it's kind of fascinating for me because I'm witnessing that a bunch of my peers, a bunch of other, quote, keynote speakers, they're like deer in the headlights. They have a bookshelf and they sit there and they're talking to some PowerPoint deck. I'm trying to shake it up in terms of what I can do and the capabilities that I have, because we need to engage people in new and different ways in this online format. Even today, I'm sitting at my desk and I'm not using one of my virtual stage sets, and I'm trying out all kinds of new and different camera angles, because that's a key part of what we need to do to go ahead. So I'm going to close off with my little closing slide here, and would appreciate your feedback on where we're going and how you found this particular clip. Have a good one.